Watcher of Realms has a problem. Normally I start my videos with an introduction of me, but I don't need to anymore. Because ultimately, that doesn't matter. The big issue that we're running into right now at the top echelon, or whatever you want to call it, the Overlord guilds are burning out. Left and right, we're all burning out. Why? Why are we burning out? Because this matchmaking system sucks. I've already made a video on it months ago, complaining about the fact that it was a problem. And now we're starting to lose guilds. So what do I mean by that? Immortal Elite, number one guild in the game, has been since day one, creates a large part of the issue. And I don't blame Immortal Elite for winning every match. That's just how they do things. That's not their fault that they win every match. The issue is this matchmaking system wasn't built to sustain that, right? Because they are so far, so definitively at the top, the matchmaking system below them breaks apart. Because nothing shakes up right here, it has a trickle-down effect to every other guild possible. So the way it works is number one always fights number two. Number three always fights number four. And so on. When you start getting ties, when multiple guilds like this will be at the exact same numbers, that happens consistently throughout the season because you only get plus so many points and minus so many points, but there's no odd calculation that could possibly switch it up. Like 7 and 8 will almost always be at the exact same point total, right? All of these ones will always be within 1 or 2 as you go down, right? There's not usually going to be this giant jump between points. That's just because the matchmaking system, for the most part, isn't really all that surprising. It's the exact same thing. So, why do I say this is a problem? If Immortal Elite, the number one guild in this game on global servers, if the number one guild in this game cannot sustain players to be in a secondary guild, meaning they cannot field an additional roster of 30 and keep them interested in your guild versus guild, which is the only evergreen content in this game, how is anyone else going to survive? Because they're always at the top and everything below them is broken, that means all of these other guilds are going to eventually start to quit. And don't take my word for it, because one already has. So we have lost CLSE. Specifically, CLSE, even in their guild slogan, has even said retired. But really and truthfully, they've stopped playing. They don't try to win matches anymore because they're sick and tired of the cycle of the same guilds fighting the same guilds over and over and over. And I don't blame them for being tired of it. I am too. I'm sick of it. And I've been sick of it for months. But it took 30 people quitting the only evergreen content left in the game for me to realize how bad it is getting. Because yeah, Immortal Dawn falling apart felt a little weird, but I felt like that could have just been decisions from Immortal Elite. Maybe Immortal Elite couldn't field that roster, or maybe they got tired of running 2 guilds. I don't know. I actually don't know why that guild fell apart, but I know why CLSE is. And I'm not going to say they're falling apart. They have stopped playing. There is a difference. So, what is all this about? In Watcher of Realms, you have 2 pieces of evergreen content. What is evergreen content? That is content that you do every single week that keeps people logging in. Because your PvE content, all of this stuff, is set yeah, we got 3 new levels for this. Woohoo. I haven't quite finished 15 yet because I think it's a little buggy. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Right? This content has an end. So everything in raids has an end. Everything in campaign has an end. I haven't even finished the campaign because I didn't see a point to. I still don't. Right? It's boring. It's not hard. It's just time consuming. Right? Same thing for the Void Rift epilogue, right? Like, yeah, I could finish that probably if I just sat down and did it, but like, I'm bored. It's PvE content. It has an end. I'm not in a rush to fight content that's going to end in a week or two. But also, like a lot of other people who have already beaten all this stuff, what do they get to do? Arena? This thing's a joke, and it has been for months. Years since I've started playing. I started playing this game a year and a day ago, I think it was. Maybe a year and 2 days. Let's find out. A year and 3 days ago, I started playing Watcher of Realms. Arena was dead content when I started playing. And it didn't refresh with the whole adding 300 people in the new, Apex system. It's the same guilds, the same people, the same individuals that are all on the top. If you want to get number 1, there's a Discord server available that will help you do it, because guess what? That's the only way that content is even relevant anymore. You have to go on to Discord. So that's dead content. And Guild versus Guild is too. I hate to say this, but there's not really a reason to play this game right now. And, I feel like a lot of people might boff or rebuke that idea, right? Like balk at that idea. Like it seems so strange. There's so much to do in Watcher of Realms, but there really isn't. You have Guild versus Guild and Arena, and Guild versus Guild is broken. Matchmaking system, there's no reward at the top end of this, and if you're in a guild, below the top 35 or 36, right? If you're not fighting for Overlord, which you're welcome to do, it's still boring, right? Like, there's no reason to log in and play this game. There's no reason to keep trying to grind every single day for gear and demon soldiers for dead content. And I don't think the developers understand that. Immortal Dawn and CLSE are canaries in the coal mine. They are 2 guilds that fell apart because this content is dead. And a lot of people may look at that and say, oh, well, you're just an elitist, right? Like, I tend to get that a lot, right? Like, you're an elitist. But people don't understand that about the hardcore players of a video game. There's a very easy saying here. There's a very easy quotation to make here. The reason why the hardcore players notice the problems first is because they are putting in more time and more hours to get to the place where it breaks apart. So having 2 top 10 guilds, top 5 guilds maybe even, but having 2 top 10 guilds give up entirely, just stop trying, should tell you something. Something is broken, right? Something is broken. And instead of fixing it, we get chintzy little content patches here and there from Moonton that aren't really addressing any of the issues, right? Like, all we've gotten now from the patches is the, a little bit of, buffs for this person, buffs for that person. In Guild Wars Season 8, we get less attacks, not more, which is fine. There's new maps, I guess. There's a new avatar border, emote. There's some new demon soldiers, and we changed up some of the abilities, right? That's what they did. But they didn't at all address the issues, which is the matchmaking is awful. It's still awful. It hasn't changed yet. like, you need to fix guild versus guild, because this isn't going to do it, right? Adding some extra abilities here and there, that's not going to fix GVG. That's not going to fix guild versus guild. You're not going to fix guild versus guild by making the heroes more diverse. You're not going to fix guild versus guild by making the comps you can make more, varied, or nerfing demon soldier stats so that heroes have a better chance of winning, or whatever you think that you need to do. You're going to fix guild versus guild by fixing the matchmaking system. Now, I don't pretend to know exactly how to fix it, but I have some suggestions on something to try. Because honestly, the best thing that we could do is bracket this thing out. So what does that look like? At the end of the season, move whoever is number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, whatever. You just start moving people to different brackets. I would recommend 3 brackets, because that divides evenly for the amount of guilds that can get into Overlord almost every time, right? So if you do 3 brackets, that means the top 12 guilds in those brackets are going to be Overlord, and literally just divide this thing out. So then what does that look like season over season? So season 8 brackets start, right? Everyone gets split out. We fight through season 8 in our brackets. And then season 9, whoever the top guild in each bracket is, stays in that bracket. Number 2 moves over 1 to the right. Think of it like 3 different paths. You just move them over. That way, every guild below the top 10 changes. Now, why is that slightly more important? Well, that is going to drastically increase the diversity of guilds that you end up fighting. Yes, that season, you may end up fighting the same guilds a few times, but the next season you won't, because whoever's below you moves, or you move instead of them. It just depends on how you decide to do something like that. Again, there's some implementation, there's some systems that need to be built, and it's probably not going to be ready by the end of season 7. But it needs to be addressed, and not once has Moonton even acknowledged that it's broken. So, I'm upset, but don't just take my word for it, right? I am the voice piece to some other people's upset right now. Like, I am just the voice behind the microphone today, which is why I don't bother introducing myself. I just wanted to say why it is that CLSE, why it is that a lot of members of Immortal Dawn, and why it is that a lot of members of Dragon Slayers 1 and 2 are upset, are having a hard time playing this game, are having a hard time logging in every day. Our attrition rates are going up. And every single person who quits playing this game, that spends money on this game, is a big deal, because the less people spending money on this game means the less this game is going to survive. I know a lot of people like to play this game free to play. You're welcome to do so, but the developers are not going to continue making content for this game for free to play players. That's not why they're doing it. They make content for the people who spend money. And like it or not, that's the way it works. That's kind of the way the world works in this case. If they're not going to make money on this game, they'll stop making content when that stops being lucrative. So we need to keep those people interested. So fix Guild versus Guild. For the love of God, fix Arena. Add more evergreen content. Add more reasons to have people log in and play your game. And it doesn't always have to just be PvP. You could totally have a piece of evergreen content be like a survival mode dungeon where you get your heroes placed down and you just face wave after wave and you try to get as far as you can. Kind of like what I think Tide is supposed to be, but isn't, because that's just a BP check. But add more content that makes people want to log in and give them a reason to do it every day. Because, like, Dragon's just an auto. This is a weekly auto, right? So you want content that you can't just auto your way through. Make people play your game, for the love of God. But anyways, this is my negative video. I appreciate you guys listening. If you agree with this, disagree with this, of course, feel free to comment down below. Again, I'm sorry in advance if I put words in anyone's mouth. I'm not meaning to do that, but I'm just giving and voicing all of the opinions told to me by players within these organizations, or former organizations in the case of Immortal Dawn, and what issues they were having and why they were having them. And I just wanted to voice that on a video because it needed to be heard.